Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the top rookies playing in the NHL this year. I'm your host, Logan Horn, and today I'm joined by my co-host and fellow prospect analyst, Matthew Zator. How are you doing today, Matt?
Doing good. Canucks prospects have put a little bit more in this past week, so a little more exciting to talk about them. But yeah, and Canucks, lost to the Maple Leafs, but whatever. That's not prospect related.
No, but as we mentioned just off air, there's just so many great rookies this year. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait at least another year for any of the big Canucks prospects to be NHL players, but there's still so much fun to watch for Canucks fans outside of the NHL right now, and actual reasons for hope in the future, which is a new concept in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, for sure.
4 years before Quinn Hughes. Anywho, before we hop in with just the top group, all those names you'll know very well at this point. I just want to mention quickly that the Hockey Writers, we've expanded all our content into Substacks dedicated to every NHL team. And we also have one for NHL draft and prospects content. So if you want to make sure you stay caught up with all that content, sign up. There is a free tier where you just receive an email in your inbox a couple times throughout the week with all of our best prospects and draft content, the kind of stuff that is going to really start picking up pretty soon with the World Juniors coming. And then our whole 2024 draft content really kicking into high gear in the spring. There's also a premium tier with exclusive articles, mailbags, prospect interviews, podcasts in the future, and more. So you can find a sign-up link for that in the video description below. Check it out. All right. So like I said, we're just going to look at a lot of the top rookies in the NHL. We're going to look at them roughly in tiers today, as it pertains to the Calder Trophy race, the NHL's trophy for the best first-year player. There's more rules to it. It's needlessly confusing, but just generally rookies most of the time, unless weird stuff. Anywho, the obvious name at the top is Connor Bedard. Matt, what have you seen from him earlier this year? Is it fair to say he's still the favorite? Is he running away from the pack? Is it closer than you thought? What do you think?
Well, he's definitely the top guy right now. I don't think he's running away with it because, we'll talk about a few other names here, but he's definitely, as expected, playing really well in his first season in the NHL. That shot has already been showcased many times during his first month or so of the season. He's shown he can play in the NHL. Maybe not dominate it yet, but he's definitely showing the potential to be a guy like a Sidney Crosby, or a Connor McDavid, guys like that. And he's definitely not there yet, but he is, he's showing a lot of signs that he's going to become that type of player. And he's leading the way for the Blackhawks. He's playing on the top line. He's playing on the top power play unit as expected. But he's the growing pains are there, but he's definitely showing well in his first season.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's fair to say he's still the favorite. I mean, he is leading all rookies in goals and tied for the lead in points. He's been scoring a lot more lately. He had a bit of a like a shooting percentage slump to start the year, which kind of reminded me of Steven Stamkos's rookie year, where he had so many shots. He had this skill. It just wasn't clicking, and it was just kind of bad luck a lot of the time. And I thought maybe Bedard was, on the path to have a rookie year similar, maybe like 15, 20 goals, but should have had another 15. But that doesn't look like the case anymore. He's already got 7 in 12 games, which is, I don't think he will get this, but it's on pace for about 48 goals. His shooting percentage is at 18% right now, which is roughly in line with the elite goal scorers in the NHL. I don't think he'll be an elite goal scorer in his rookie season. He definitely could be, though. But it feels very reasonable to expect him to be maybe around the 15% mark. It's kind of like where Alex DeBrincat's career average is. I feel like that's a fair comparison, at least for a rookie year. That'd be incredible. And that would still put him at 40 plus goals. So he's definitely a favorite. But because of this next person, he hasn't really run away with it yet. Well, there's plenty of people still in the running, actually. It's early. But Logan Cooley with the Arizona Coyotes has been phenomenal. And as we're recording this just last night, he had a 3-assist game, which jumped him right up to 11 points on the year, tying him with Connor Bedard. Oh, also, I should mention Connor Bedard has more points than any other Connor in the NHL right now. It's because McDavid is sleepwalking or something. I don't know what's going on with him right now, but Bedard is leading all Connors. I thought I should let you know. But Logan Cooley's been great. He's been as advertised. He only has 1 goal. I expect he'll score a little more. I mean, he's not a 5% career shooter. There's just no chance. He's got a better shot than people think. But the playmaking is there, the dynamic skating. He's going to be a very good player for the Coyotes for a very long time. And he's totally like a favorite to be at least a finalist in the Calder Trophy race this year. I mean, you need the storyline and the media attention, which means Bedard, even if he had the exact same stat line as Logan Cooley at the end of the year, Bedard would win. He's got just such a huge head start, just publicity-wise. But play-wise, Cooley isn't very far behind him right now. He's been excellent. Someone else who's been great in kind of a weird situation, it's kind of like load management from other sports like the NBA. Leo Carlsson. Matt, what are your thoughts on Leo Carlsson's start? And I think he's only played, how many games is he in now? He's been in 9 of the Ducks' first 12, 13 games. They've been resting him a bit here and there. What do you think of that strategy for European prospects to kind of get him used to the games and stuff? And what have you thought of him early this year?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of an interesting way that they're using him because, he has to get used to the bigger or smaller ice because coming from the big ice. And usually that happens in the AHL. They play down there for a bit and they come up. But he's definitely shown he can play in the NHL. He's got 6 goals already. Had I believe a hat trick the other day. And that's a lot for 6 goals in 9 games. I mean, that's pretty good for a rookie. Pretty good start. He's playing in the top 6 whenever he does play. Looking like he's getting some chemistry with guys like Mason McTavish and other on the Ducks. Very surprising start to the season. I know he played. I know he's played with Zegras as well. He's been impressive to start the season, and as a guy that's I don't know if we expect him to play in the NHL this season. I think we were kind of iffy on that if he was going to play, but he's definitely shown that he can. It just depends. We'll see how many more games he'll play. He's now at that 9-game mark. Now the next game means he cannot. That entry-level deal is going to start being used. So we'll see. And it looks like he'll stay in the NHL. I don't think they're moving him anywhere. But yeah, he's been very impressive.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he belongs. I wouldn't be shocked if they either send him to the AHL or they loaned him back to Sweden, but it feels like this is where he's best suited. And it doesn't look like the Ducks expect to be this good all year. I definitely don't expect them to be this good all year. But they'll take it, and he can start to build some chemistry with McTavish and Zegras. That hat trick was crazy to watch. I don't know. I really like the idea of this load management / just giving him extra time to acclimate both like physically to the NHL. And, he gets extra time to just work out and extra time to rest. But also just he didn't play that many league games last year. Like he played most of the games, but that was 44 games in the SHL. Granted, he played I think he played over 80 games when you combine all the international stuff and playoffs and all that kind of thing. But it's fair to assume that he'll play a similar amount this year, just against tougher competition. It's just the attrition for young players is usually pretty tough, regardless of what league they come from before. So I think it's interesting. If it seems to work, I would not be surprised to see it kind of catch on in the next few years. I think it makes a lot of sense to help out your top prospects at least a little bit if you're going to launch them right into the NHL. Speaking of players going straight to the NHL, though, Adam Fantilli is the last guy I've got in this top tier of favorites. The big surprise. We've got the top 3 forwards from last year's draft and Logan Cooley, pretty universally expected to be the best NHL players out of that group, aside from a few people here and there. But Fantilli has been really solid. I've been impressed with him. I think there are definitely games where he is the best player for the Blue Jackets, a team that clearly thought they were going to be good this year. Getting Mike Babcock and 2 top 4 defensemen and adding Fantilli and stuff like that. But they've been pretty bad. They are last in the Eastern Conference, I believe, at this point. They're not like being sewered like last year. They're not way down there, but they are last, which is rough. And he has not been the reason for that. He's been good, not incredible, but part of that's due to just the quality of the team around him. It's not a great team. He's looked strong, though, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him start to take over a little more as he gets used to the NHL. He could also go the other way and start to slow down just from too many games, because playing in NCAA, like, you're in classes and practice and the gym all week, and then you play 2 games on the weekend. Rather, now he's playing 2 to 4 games every single week over and over and over. So it's a different whole setup for him, but he's got the size and strength to compete here. And I wouldn't be shocked if he gets better and better and starts to join that very top group, which kind of feels like Bedard and Cooley right now, maybe. But he's great. It's way too early to drop him down too much. He's an excellent prospect. Next group here, Matt, is some of these emerging prospects, guys that we thought relatively highly of, but did not expect to see this early on. They also are probably not likely to keep up the scoring that we've seen early on, but doesn't mean it hasn't been really impressive, and they definitely have a shot at the Calder. So I'll come to you first on Pavel Mintyukov with the Ducks, another prospect over there.
Yeah, I had him as my co-prospect of the week last week, and he's, as I said there, he's been very impressive to start a season, but where I didn't expect him to play in the NHL this season, and especially not just play, but he's playing. His ice time has been over 20 minutes a night, which is a top 4 ice time, and his last game -3. Only played 17 minutes. I think they maybe reduced his ice time a bit in that one, but that's going to happen. There's going to be games where these rookies that'll have issues with some teams or some issues defensively, but he's been very impressive with his points and his defensive play. So, I mean, he's got 9 points in 13 games. And his last bunch of games has only been pointless in 2 games. And he's had points in all but 5. When is my counting here? 4 games, and all but 4 games in the last bunch of games here. And it's a guy that's we've talked about him so much on this show. I know when we talk about the Anaheim Ducks, he's one of their top defensive prospects. But I definitely didn't expect him to come into the NHL and be this good this early.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really positive surprise for the Ducks. Everyone kind of expected them to be maybe a little bit ahead of the Sharks, but not by much this year, just right in the basement of the league. Really hot start, and it's fueled by their young guns. I would say mainly by Mason McTavish, who just kind of looks like the guy there, which is awesome. That's so much fun. Zegras has been really underwhelming so far to start this year. It's just a month. And there's a large enough sample size to believe that he can be a really solid, really skilled top 6 forward. But the other young guns are just taking over. And probably not going to last, but it's really cool to see guys like Mintyukov succeeding so much so early on. Another one of these prospects who has been very impressive to start is Matthew Poitras with the Boston Bruins, a second round pick a year or two back in the draft. Not someone anyone expected to see in the NHL this year. If you thought Poitras was going to be in the NHL this year, stop lying to yourself. Even through training camp and preseason, I was like, he's looked good, but I don't think it'll last. He's looked good, but I don't think it'll last. It's lasting. He's been a serious middle six center for a Bruins team that refuses to die. Do you remember a couple of years ago, the New York Islanders? It seemed like they were fueled by people overlooking them and thinking they were over and they were washed. And then they would just go to the conference finals every year. And we were like, I guess we're done. That's the Bruins now. Because last year, everyone thought they were going to fall off, injuries, losing players, whatever. And then they set the NHL record for points casually. And this year, everyone thought the fall off would be even harder, losing their top two centermen, including Patrice Bergeron, who's a future Hall of Famer. And they seem to be fine. Like they're excellent still. And they're taking this young player who everyone expected to go back to junior this year, and he's been phenomenal. I don't know that he'll stay all year, partly because as a CHL player through the COVID years, he didn't really get a chance to be with Team Canada for anything. And I wouldn't be surprised if it would be important to him to play for Team Canada. And I think with how he's looked so far, they would love to have him. But he might be too important to the Bruins for that to even happen, which is wild. I never thought that would be the case a month ago even. But he's been great. He has scored more than I expected. He's got good two-way play. I don't know what to think about Poitras, but he looks like a future, at least second-line center for the Bruins, which is huge for a team that just lost Krejci and Bergeron. Yeah, he's great. Definitely in the running here as one of the most important rookies so far this year to his team. Someone else in this group, Matt, is Ridley Greig with the Ottawa Senators. What are your thoughts on his season so far?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's injured now, but he has been good. And it doesn't sound like it's a really bad injury, but he's got 7 points in 9 games to start. I was really excited to see him in the NHL this season. He did play 20 games last season, but he's still technically a rookie. Had 9 points in 20 games. He's already almost to that in 9. And he's one of those guys that I've loved since his draft year. He's very hardworking. He's one of those utility players that you can play up and down your lineup. Could potentially be a type of a shutdown guy, centerman in the future. Very smart two-way player, and that's one guy that I'm thinking is going to be a really important player for the Senators in the future. Maybe even now, because there's who knows what Shane Pinto is going to end up. Where he's going to do, what it's going to happen with him.
Oh boy.
I'm anticipating he's not going to be with the Senators. I think he's going to be gone eventually. But Greig is going to be that guy who's going to take over his role and his spot. And that's one guy that I've loved watching throughout his career so far. So I'm happy that he's already succeeding so early in his career. Hopefully this injury doesn't derail this season too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I feel like Greig is just one of those just fan favorite style players. Like I remember his run with Team Canada at the World Juniors. Can't remember which year that was. We've had like 3 World Juniors in the last 18 months. It feels like something like that, which makes no sense. But before he got injured in that tournament, he was just phenomenal, working so hard, better goal scoring instincts than a lot of people think, or a lot of people recognize maybe, and just a hardworking 200-foot center. To the start of the year, I was like, he's scoring points. He's a second line center roughly most of the time. But I was thinking like, oh, just temper expectations. Pinto will come back and he'll get bumped and he'll have less ice time, less good teammates, whatever. Doesn't look like, I mean, as long as he's healthy and gets back, doesn't look like Pinto's going to bump him down the lineup anytime soon. Got a little ways to go before that could even theoretically happen. But yeah, great start to him. I hope he gets healthy quick and can get back to just running the show in Ottawa. Well, maybe not. There's a lot of great forwards there, a lot of great players in general. One other person I want to mention quickly in this tier is Luke Evangelista, who is tied for third in scoring among rookies. If I'm remembering the NHL's weird Calder rules correctly, part of it is having not played 25 games in the previous year. Luke Evangelista played 24 games in the NHL last year. So he is a rookie.
Yeah.
Although should he be? Doesn't matter. He is. That's all that matters. He's been great for the Predators this year. 9 points in 14 games. Only 1 goal. He's better than that 1 goal. He was solid last year. Looked like a full-time NHLer last year. I'm assuming since he played 24 games and spent most of the rest of that in the AHL, that they knew what they were doing, and they weren't preserving an ELC, so maybe they didn't care, and it was just a coincidence that he's still a rookie. But he definitely has like Michael Bunting energy, someone that you just like don't expect to be even eligible for the Calder Trophy, and has more experience than anyone else in the running, but just is going to like have a rocket off to a great start and actually have a very real chance of winning. So watch out for him. He could honestly threaten 50-60 points this year, and that could be enough to make him top 5, top 4 in voting at the end of the year. I wouldn't be shocked. All right, we're going to move to our last tier here before some honorable mentions. These are names that it's way too early to count out, and then one just kind of like Hail Mary on my end. But first off is Luke Hughes, the third Hughes brother. Jack has been out for a little bit, but Jack and Quinn Hughes have been phenomenal this year. And there was a time where I think Luke was tied for first in rookie scoring. Quinn was leading defenseman in scoring, and Jack was leading all players in scoring, which was hilarious. So it's only a matter of time before Luke is playing on that same level as his brothers, probably. But what have you seen from him early on? And I know he slowed down points-wise a little bit, but what do you think of Luke Hughes' rookie year so far?
Yeah, he's been really good. Another guy that's playing over 20 minutes a night. Lately, he's been bumped down a bit. Last 3 games, he's been under 20 minutes. But before that, he was 22, 23. That's, again, top 4 minutes on a team that has pretty deep defensively. And he's being played in that upper end of the lineup. And like I say, he's been really good. Again, lately has kind of slowed down, even in his shots. Bunch of games before that, he had 5, 4. He was multiple shot games, but he's been only with 1 the last 2 games. That's going to happen with a guy like that, and especially playing against some teams like played against the Avalanche this past Tuesday, and that was where you're playing against a really good team. His ice time was down, so I mean maybe they were trying to protect him, shelter him, who knows? But he's been everything that's been advertised of him. A very good skater, and not just very good, elite skater. He can put up points, he can score, he can do everything. And 7 points in 13 games, like you said, he was tied for the rookie lead for a bit there. And that's when I wrote the article about the Hughes brothers dominating the NHL early on. That died off pretty fast, although Quinn Hughes is still...
You jinxed it.
It just, yeah. Quinn Hughes has more points than Jack right now, which is funny. I mean, Jack's he's hurt, unfortunately.
He's missed 3 or 4 games now, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if he was healthy, he'd probably be kind of staying within that same range. But it's pretty funny seeing it was one point where it was Quinn or Jack was first, and Quinn was like a point back of him for the league lead in points. So it's like,
that's wild.
I don't know if that was ever something they would say when they were in their talking as kids. We're going to be like 1-2 and scoring in the NHL. Maybe Jack would have said that, but Quinn's
maybe.
But yeah, Luke is going to end up being, I think, and I've said this many times with him, he's going to be in that same level as Quinn, where he's going to be a 70+ point defenseman, and he's just one of those, modern day type NHL defenseman. Great skater, great offensively, and he plays defense differently than, he's saying he'll be bad defensively, but he just has the puck. So, I mean, you don't have to play defense if you have the puck.
Yep, that's the motto of the Hughes brothers. You have to play defense if you never lose the puck.
Yeah.
So someone else that I think isn't getting enough attention for the Calder Trophy race right now, and it's because the points aren't astounding, but 6 points in 14 games for a defenseman is good, is Brock Faber. He has been excellent for the Wild. He's played over 23 minutes a night. He's a +5, which isn't, we know plus minus isn't the most important stat in the world. It's pretty finicky and doesn't really carry too much weight. But for a rookie defender to be playing top pairing minutes a lot of the time, and to be a positive is a good thing. That's a good sign. Jared Spurgeon has played, I think, just one game so far this year. And early on, Faber basically was filling in for him and did a pretty bang up job. He's been phenomenal. We saw him at the end of last year and in the playoffs for the Wild. We knew what he could do. Obviously, he's still young. He's still new to the NHL. The pace is kind of a lot, and there's some adjustments to be made for sure. But if we told the Wild that he'd fill in for Spurgeon very well to start the year, I'm sure they'd be thrilled, and he could fill that spot in the future after he has a little more time to get used to the NHL. Faber definitely in the running for me. You usually see at least one defenseman in the finalist group, just because people feel bad, I guess, for Calder Trophy voting. Faber would probably be my pick right now among defensemen, although Mintyukov and Hughes definitely have a good chance to be there as well. Let's run a couple more real quick. What are your thoughts on Matthew Knies' start? Hasn't maybe had as many top 6 minutes as we thought were inevitable for him this year, but he still looked good for the Maple Leafs for sure. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, we all know what he did in the playoffs last season for the Maple Leafs. Was one of their best players throughout those playoffs, and 4 points in 7 games in the playoffs, which is really good for a rookie. Did seem to have some chemistry with some of the top 6 players. He played with Austin Matthews this past game against the Canucks and scored a goal. Just going to the net, being there, and that's what you do on a line like that. You get to the front of the net, and you'll probably find pucks that these other skilled guys are getting there. And 8 points in 15 games, it's not mind blowing by any means, but he's played really well. Like you said, he hasn't had as many top 6 that we thought. He was going to maybe solidify himself as a second line, but looking at what they brought in with Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi, Bertuzzi obviously is playing in the top 6. Domi's seen time there, but he hasn't very much lately. But Knies has definitely looked, again, like we know he belongs in the NHL. It's just where he's going to go with his point totals. We'll see. But so far, so good. He's having his opportunities, and he's kind of taking advantage a bit of them. We'll see how long he stays. He only played 12 minutes his last game, which is not top 6 minutes by any means, and has averaged around 14-ish minutes a game, which again is like a middle 6, bottom 6. So we'll see where he goes. I mean, I think he's just going to keep being thrown around the lineup. I had a great game this past with 3 points against the Lightning, which he's got most of his points against the Lightning, which is kind of funny. He seems to really perform against that team, which he did in the playoffs too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Leafs will take it because they're going to have to beat the Lightning a lot this year, probably in the playoffs again. Who knows? Great start for Knies. I'll go through honorable mentions here. My Hail Mary pick is Joel Hofer, just because there's always a goalie. Also, it's usually at least one is a defenseman or a goalie or both in the finalists for the Calder Trophy. And Hofer's been, in a small sample size this year for the Blues, he's been really good as their backup. And if the Oilers panic enough to trade for Jordan Binnington, which isn't going to happen, but would be really funny, I think the Blues would be relatively comfortable with that because of what they've seen from Hofer in the AHL and in short stints in the NHL. He's looked good. If he can earn a few more starts, he's probably going to need to get 30, 40 starts at least if he wants to win the Calder. But I don't think he cares too much about that. He just wants a full-time spot someday. But he's been great. So honorable mentions, we got Marco Rossi, Connor Zary, who I didn't put anywhere else because he's only played 4 games, but been really solid in those for the Flames. David Jiricek, who was demoted to the AHL for reasons. Don't ask me, ask Columbus what they're doing with some of their prospects over there, Kent Johnson included. Bobby Brink has been great to start. And then Dmitry Voronkov for the Blue Jackets, who's 6'5", 23-year-old forward in his first year in North America. He's been excellent. He has 6 points in 8 games, and he's played like 12 minutes a night. Like, he's barely getting ice time, and he's just tearing it up. He should be in their top 6 probably, but we'll see what they do with Voronkov. Okay, that will do it for these Calder Trophy tiers, some of the top prospects playing right now. I want to quickly take a break here to once again mention our NHL Draft and Prospect Substack. Really easy way to stay caught up on all the best prospect and draft content coming through our site, which is going to pick up a lot soon with the World Juniors and then the NHL Draft machine starting up soon after that. Check out our free tier for email sent to your inbox multiple times a week with the best content across our site with prospects and drafts. And then also there's a premium tier with exclusive articles, mailbags, prospect interviews, and more. You can find a sign-up link for that in the video description below. All right, we're going to hop back in talking about some of the best rookies and prospects playing in the NHL to start this year. So, Matt, I've got to ask, at this point, we're like roughly a month into the NHL season. Every team has played, 12, 13, 14 games or so. If you had to place a bet right now, who's your bet for the Calder Trophy winner this year?
Got to go with Connor Bedard. I mean, he is, like you said, we said at the beginning, he's not dominating, but he's definitely the lead. He's definitely in the lead right now because he's scoring goals. He's leading the way for the Blackhawks. He's not just looking good offensively; he's looking pretty good defensively. He's playing all the minutes. He's being showcased everywhere. I don't know how everyone's not going to vote for him unless he like falls drastically off a cliff and like gets no points in like 30 games or something. That's not going to happen. Yeah. I'm going with Connor Bedard, even though he is an obvious one. I don't think if I'm betting, I'm not going off the board right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I agree with you. Like there's no point going if you were betting, there's no point wasting your money right now because someone is not just going to have to be better than Bedard to beat him in the Calder Trophy. They're going to have to be a lot better than him. Just the whole media world around him, the massive publicity the NHL has given him, but also the fact that he's realistically on pace for over 40 goals.
Yeah.
Like in a relatively sustainable way. That doesn't happen with rookies every year. And when it does, you're basically guaranteed to win. If you're a goalie and you win 30 games as a rookie, you have a really, really good shot. If you're a defenseman and you're nearly a point a game, you have a really good shot. But if you're a forward and you have 40 goals or more, congratulations, you are the Calder Trophy winner. There's a long way to go before he gets there. He needs another 33 goals or something to actually get there. There's a lot of hockey to go, but he's easily the favorite still. It's going to take a lot for someone to take that seat. So to make it more interesting, Matt, who do you think will be the other 2 finalists at the end of the year? Who do you think the Professional Hockey Writers Association will vote as the second and third, as the 2 runner-ups?
Well, I'm gonna go with Logan Cooley as a finalist for sure. The other guy is kind of up in the air. There's so many guys, and we've talked about quite a few of them. I want to go. I'm gonna say Pavel Mintyukov. The obvious one is Leo Carlsson, but as a third guy, but I want to go for the defenseman because I think Mintyukov can sustain a bit of his scoring, not at the same levels what he's doing right now, but I think he can definitely get into that 40-ish point range if he stays the same ice time and gets the same opportunities that he's getting right now. Especially with the way the Ducks are playing, I think they are definitely going to keep him in that top 4 role, especially what he's doing right now. So I'm going to go maybe a little off the board and say Mintyukov is the other finalist at this point, at least.
That's a nice one. That's a nice group. I like it. You've got my defenseman in there. I'm going to try to have a different set entirely. So except for Bedard. That's obviously the favorite still. Between Carlsson and Fantilli, I feel like Carlsson probably has the advantage at this point. I'd take him just because at least the team is more fun around him than the Blue Jackets are right now. Sorry, Adam. But I'll say Carlsson ends up as a finalist. He's not going to score at this rate the whole season. That would be like 60 goals. And he's never going to be that guy. But I think realistically 20 plus goals, 50 plus points is very well within reach. Depending on how many games he ultimately plays. But I'll have him in my top 3. And the other will be this is so hard. I'm going to go Brock Faber. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think he's going to deserve it. I think he'll be in my top 3 at the end of the year and probably like 9th or something in actual voting. But he's going to put up 30 points, play 22 minutes a night all year, power play 2, penalty kill, everything. I think he's going to be a stud. I think he kind of already is, but Brock Faber's my other top 3 pick then. Okay, so one other prospect I want to mention, someone who we thought might get a little more of a run this year, although it's not shocking that he didn't with the talent. But Matthew Savoie had just made his NHL debut Friday night before immediately being sent down to the Wenatchee Wild of the WHL. He only played 3 or 4 minutes of ice time as well. So they're like, here, have your NHL debut. And then he barely played, and then they sent him down. So it wasn't maybe not what he dreamed up, but they do have a ton of great forwards in Buffalo. So do you think this is the right move? Mainly, I just mean going back to junior for Savoie. He's played a few AHL games, was injured to start the year, and then got this one game in and back down to the WHL. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
I really don't understand the debut. Playing based it's like, here you can, like you said, here have a shift, have a few shifts
or something,
and just, try it out. And then you send him right back. You send him right back to the WHL. I mean, I think it's the right move to go back to the WHL. I just don't understand putting him in the NHL for only a few minutes and then you're putting him back. I mean, I don't know what that says to him. It's like, you're not good enough for the NHL, but you're good enough to play for a few minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like they felt obligated because he was with the team and with the AHL team for so long. It feels like they felt obligated to play him, but it's like, if you're going to play him that many minutes, just send him home already. He'll be back next year.
But I mean, going back to the WHL is not a bad thing for him. He'll probably be one of the top point getters if he can get running really quick. There's a lot of guys that have already got a head start on him, obviously, but he is definitely going to benefit from playing in junior again, probably for the last time. And but very skilled, very good. I love Savoie, so I mean, I don't think they messed up his development at all by playing him in the NHL for that many minutes, but definitely not going to mess him up by playing him in the WHL for the rest of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very curious to see what happens with the Wenatchee Wild, formerly the Winnipeg Ice. For those who don't know, that change happened last year. So Savoie, Geeky, Benson no longer play for Winnipeg Ice in the WHL. It's the same franchise, just moved Wenatchee Wild now. But Connor Geeky has actually been really solid to start the year without Benson and Savoie. He's kind of been the guy there, and he's been great, well over a point per game, looking like the dominant two-way center that he should be in junior. Last year was a little bit of a disappointment for him, but he looks to be making up for that early on. So Savoie could be a big part of adding to that. I was kind of thinking the Wild would be one of these sellers this year because, not having Benson, Savoie all year would be really tough on them. And maybe they'd start selling these guys off to the highest bidders in the WHL and just try to rebuild in their new city. But now that Savoie's coming back, I don't know if that's going to be the case because Geeky's been so much better than I expected, and they're not in the basement of the WHL remotely right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fun move for the Sabres. I think it makes sense for Savoie to go back to junior. He wasn't going to crack their NHL team, and because of the CHL NHL agreement, he couldn't play full time in the AHL, which I think would be the best spot for him. I think he went there on a conditioning stint following his injury. If they could have sent him there full time, I think they would have. But since that's not an option, I think WHL makes a lot of sense. He can be a big time player for Team Canada at the World Juniors coming up. And I think Zach Benson actually might get a pretty similar treatment, which is my next question for you. He's been out with an injury for a while, hasn't reached the 10 game threshold for his entry-level contract. He could still come back from injury and play a couple games. But what do you think of the idea of maybe the exact same thing as Savoie, like conditioning stint in the AHL, a game or two in the NHL, and then send him off to World Juniors training camp, which starts in less than a month as we record this. So, like, do you think that's probably going to happen with Benson?
I think so. I mean, he's looked okay in the NHL. I mean, to start his 6 games that he did play, at a couple assists, looked like he could belong. But the thing is I anticipated he was probably going to only get the 9 and then get sent back. I mean, it was great he made the team. It wasn't expected he was going to make the team, but definitely full value for doing it. But I don't think he's ready for full-time NHL action. I think he go back to junior, play in the World Juniors. Probably dominate in both leagues, not both leagues, but that league and then the World Juniors.
Yeah.
But you're going to be a leader there, and now Wenatchee Wild getting 2 elite players back to their lineup, which I'm sure they're ecstatic about. Potentially getting Benson as well. I think that's the best move to get him back, and don't play him in the NHL anymore. He wasn't playing a ton of minutes anyway. I mean, he had a season high 15 minutes, 16 in his second game in the NHL, but he was down to 9 minutes his game before he got injured. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to benefit from a full season burning your ELC. I think it's better for him just to go back to the WHL, play the World Juniors, and then potentially make the team next season as a full-time guy. Even that is kind of ahead, because we're like, well, he was just drafted. So, I mean, it's not like we're expecting him to be in the NHL so soon. But we'll see what happens. I think it is better just to go back to junior, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also feel like Benson sticking around was a little bit of a just solving the problem caused by Jack Quinn's injury in the offseason during his training. Fill a somewhat similar sized, pun intended, hole in the lineup, just as like a really skilled, smaller potential top 6 forward. And Quinn, if his original timeline is to be believed for recovery, I think he tore his ACL in training in the summer. He should be ready to return in the next month or so. So if they can kind of juggle Benson for a little bit, play him up to those 9 games, stint in the AHL, and that's assuming he gets healthy soon, though it seems he will. Then the team's ready to add Quinn back, and there's definitely no space for Benson. So it feels very likely that he'll be sent down eventually. Could be like a Brant Clark, Shane Wright situation where he stays with the team all the way until the World Juniors. I think he's good enough that he could be one of those guys that kind of skips the training camp, selection camp stuff and just jumps right in with the team. You see that every once in a while. But if he does get some time in Wenatchee, it seems like Benson and Savoie are safe bets to be leaders in the whole league for the back half of the season. Not going to be enough time to score 90, 100 points on the season, but wouldn't be shocked if they actually do that, because you never know. Get him 35 games, Benson could get 80 points. I wouldn't be shocked. But that's going to be a great WHL team, not to mention a great NHL team. Eventually, we keep saying they're going to be great, and they have a lot of great pieces, but it just hasn't really come together for the Sabres. But Savoie and Benson will be a part of it eventually.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that wraps that up. We're going to finish up the show, as we like to do every week, with our prospects of the week. I'll mention mine quickly. We talked about him a bunch earlier, but mine is Leo Carlsson. First hat trick of his career in the NHL. He's crushing it. The load management is really interesting. I like it. I think it's a cool new idea for the NHL. I think it makes a lot of sense for prospects coming from leagues that don't play quite as much, especially playing a more physical game. And I think it would make sense for someone like Connor Bedard to do the same thing, especially since he's playing huge minutes. But anyway, I've been excited by what I've seen from Carlsson. Looks like a great top 6 pro going forward. So he's my prospect of the week. Matt, who do you have this week?
I'll keep the Swedish love going and go with Jonathan Lekkerimaki. I know people may be getting annoyed with I keep mentioning him, but he's doing stuff, so he has to be mentioned. He's
of course.
He's got the 8 goals in the SHL. So right now he's not leading the way anymore. He's in the top 5, I think, still in goals in the SHL. But now the league paused for I don't know if the whole league is paused, but I can't remember what they do with the Five Nations Cup if the SHL just doesn't play for amount of time while this is going on. But he's on Team Sweden for that, and he's got 4 points already. In every game, he's got a point at least. And Sweden's been dominating 9-1 against Czechs, 2-1 against Slovakia, then Czech, then Finland 4-2. And he's been a player in every one of those games. Has looked really good. One goal, his only goal was ridiculous. I mean, he's done so much of this in the season already. But end to end, his hands, his speed, his shot. I mean, this is the guy that the Canucks drafted in the first round, and he's showing it this season. And I'm really, really excited to see him at the World Juniors, because I think he's going to dominate that tournament. So, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, my prospect of the week for, I think, the 3rd week of the season already.
Nice. Well, you're just warming up. It'll get really, really get moving soon. I'm sure you'll get him every week at one point. He's been great. I think I saw he's playing with Anton Wahlberg, and can't remember if it was Ostlund or Ogren, but he was playing with one of his former Djurgården's teammates, and that line has just been phenomenal, leading the way for Sweden. Feels like a potential top line for them at the World Juniors. They've got a ton of great forward talent for this upcoming World Juniors. They're going to be a little scarier than they have been in the last couple of years. They've been a little all over the place, but this feels like the potential to be a really great team, especially if Leo Carlsson takes the time to join them from Anaheim, which I think would be awesome. All right. Well, that does it for us this week. Thank you all for tuning into another episode of Prospect Corner. Make sure you subscribe to the Hockey Writers YouTube channel to make sure you catch all of our new episodes. And also make sure you check out our NHL Draft and Prospects Substack to stay caught up on all our new prospects content. There's a link in the description below. Thank you, Matt, as always. And thank you all for joining us this week on a new episode of Prospect Corner. We'll see you next time.